welcome to Curt's Corner. I'm your host, Cur3t's, and this is our 9th episode of Curt's Corner. And today my guest is Dean Retz. Now, Dean was an all-around athlete in youth baseball, high school football and track, and later on in road racing. He's been involved in the track improvements at Vigilante Stadium and with volunteering at track meets there for decades. Professionally, he started out as a banker before switching to real estate. Now, the Retz families have been supporting and promoting local sports in the Helena area for almost 90 years. So, Dean, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Kurt.
Now, before we get started, I'd like to relay some of my connections with my guests. And my first connection with you was back in the 1970s when a buddy of mine told me that I needed to get some credit created. So I went to you and I took out a loan at your bank. Then years later, after I got into the sports writing around the late 1990s, early 2000s, a few years after I had started, I was at a track meet and you came up to me and your hair was still that dark black color or brown, whatever it was, but the same mustache, but different color. And near the finish line with the stopwatch watch around your neck and proposed to sponsor a sports history ad, which we started called Glance at the Past, and that was in 2006.
Yep.
So we have a good working relationship, and we've become good friends. And also, a couple of years later is when I started covering a couple of your grandkids' sports. Mm-hmm. So that's our connection there. So just some background on your family, if you could tell me about your dad, Ernie, and your Uncle Howard. Tell us about your dad's sports. What was he involved in? And was that in Polson?
Yeah.
Polson, okay.
Yeah. Actually, I was born in Polson, but we moved here when I was 3.5 years old, and I always tell people that I was born November 7th of 1941, 30 days before Pearl Harbor, and I remember it well. And when we moved here, I remember my dad, I was 32, he was 32 when I was born. I remember him, I was 8 years old, he would have been 40, and we lived on Warren Street. And he said, let's go around the block. And I said, yeah, and he beat me by a mile. And then I realized later why, and in Polson in 1928, at the state track meet, he scored every point that the Polson High School did. He broke the state record in the long jump, 21 feet 8 inches.
Back when it was still the broad jump.
Broad jump.
Yeah.
Broad jump, yeah. Took second in the low 220 hurdles. The winner of that broke the state record. And then he also, so basically he scored all the points for Polson. And
all of his team's points in the state track meet.
Yep.
Yeah. So he was a good athlete, but you also told me that he played some football and some basketball, right?
Yep, he was also, in fact, Uncle Howard was the captain of the basketball team, and then my dad played football and basketball and did everything. And of course, when you're in a small town like that, you do everything.
Right. And now, who was older?
My dad's 2 years older than Howard.
Oh, okay. Okay, so you moved to Helena, and let's see here, where are we at? Oh, let's talk about your Uncle Howard. He was involved with the JCs, correct?
Yep.
And tell the story about how your Uncle Howard got together with Coach Lloyd Score, who came to Helena, I believe, in 1945, because they won that state championship the very first year. Mm. But he was he coached everything, Score did, of course. Back then they did, and he was a good coach. But Tell us how your uncle got involved with the institution of the JC Relays. What started out as the JC Relays and is now called the Lloyd Score Emily DeCam invite.
Uncle Howard, when he moved here, he was involved in basically everything. He was at basketball meets and that. He was the announcer. He was timing track meets. He got to be a real good friend of Lloyd Score. Excuse me. And he was also in JC's, president of JC's, became actually on the national board. And so basically he actually got with Lloyd Score and said, can we change this to the JC Relays? Stayed there until you mentioned years and years later when it was called the Score DeCam, named after the two coaches.
Right.
But as soon as he moved here, right away, got the stopwatch and it was a timer, the track meets.
Okay. So, yeah. And then your family has been involved advertising, promoting, just advocates of all kinds of sports.
Yep.
For 80, 90 years or so. Yeah.
Yeah.
I also was going to bring this up when I was doing some research on so Ernie was in the funeral home, started the funeral home, Retz Funeral Home?
No, Howard was here first.
Oh, Howard was here first.
Yeah.
And then was he working at the funeral home at the same time he was involved with JC's?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But anyway, I was looking at doing some research on that, and I noticed one of their partners was Ben Burgess. And for anybody that knows anything about the Mount Helena Run, the Mount Helena Run was started by a couple of teenagers that beat an international runner from California. It was Ben Burgess and Speed Yates, and they finished first and second and beat that guy. And 1976, they reinvented it, and it's been going strong since then. But anyway, that's just a side note there. Now let's talk about J.A.E., your brother.
Yep.
Is he older?
Jay was 2 years older. He graduated in '57. I graduated in '60.
Okay.
Yep.
Now, he was a good athlete. He was fast. You guys seem to inherit some foot speed.
Yeah.
He ran the 440. You both were 440 guys, basically, but you also ran the shorter sprints and some other stuff, correct?
Yep.
Well, what I found out was he set the divisional meet record in 1957 of 52.8 seconds in the 440. Any comments on your older brother? Did you?
Well,
could you beat him? Who was faster?
Well, we never got to race together. We were supposed to race in the state meet in the relay, but I was a freshman, he was a senior, and Coach Score said, "Here, this guy's a senior, you're a freshman, can he take your place?" I said, "Yes." We never, but
yeah,
a real good article called "Looking Back."
I've heard of that.
Way back in 2012,
Yeah.
talked about my brother, and it said during the regular season, Retz, who ran all three sprints and the short relays, was the team's high scorer with 56 points.
Ah, okay.
So he was quite a runner, but he didn't do any road racing. After he was done high school, he was done.
He was enough, yeah.
Yep.
Okay, well, we're going to take a sponsorship break now, folks. One of our major sponsors is Custom Woodwork, and that's owned by Earl Fred and his daughter Karen. They operate a business doing intarsia woodworking, making of decorative pictures by laying pieces of various natural hardwoods into a groundwork of solid wood. Earl's number is 406-442-9115, and Karen Fred is at 406-438-7857, and their shop is located at 1614 Grant Street here in Helena. Another major sponsor is Commissioner Andy Hunthausen. Andy can be reached at andy@hunthausen.org, that's his email, or you can phone him at 406-461-2922. County Commissioner Andy Hunthausen. Valued leadership, trusted experience. Okay, now let's start with your athletic career, Dean. And I came across some youth baseball stuff that I thought was very impressed with. In the C League in 1955, the Lions beat the Exchange, which Exchange happened to be my team 10 years later or whenever. I'm actually 11 years younger than you, so anything that you did, I was 10 years behind.
Curt 52.
Yeah,
yes.
but I was not. But I was not an athlete. I thought I was though. You beat the Exchange 29-1. Of course, that's before the 10-run rule, which is one of the reasons for the 10-run rule. Those kind of scores, and you led all hitters in the game with 6 base hits. So my question is, I know you're a good track man and a good football player. What about baseball? What happened there?
Well, very simply, I was real good in baseball. The last year I played, I batted .733.
Wow.
And I was approached to go into another league and then said, then you'll be on Legion Ball. So I said, well, that's great. And they said, Legion Ball starts here and ends here and ends here. And I was an avid water skier.
Oh, yeah.
And I looked at that schedule, and almost every weekend would be ruined by my water skiing. So I opted water skiing over baseball.
Well, good for you. Yeah. And did you just ski for fun? I mean, I'm sure you got as good as you could get. You probably laid over. Could you put your elbow in the water?
I was pretty competitive. In fact, a couple times when boat regattas were in town, I would do the
exhibition
stuff.
Oh, yeah.
And I was a foot skier, and we did some
barefoot.
I have foot skis right now.
Oh, the short ones.
Short ones.
Sure. Okay, I've skied on those.
I never barefooted.
Yeah.
But I did. I still, I think, hold the record on the little tiny circle, going around in circles.
Okay. So. All right. Yeah. Now, on the gridiron as a sophomore, we're going into football now, with the JV Kittens under a coach by the name of Valley Swan. That's an interesting name. Does that sound right?
I don't.
Do you recognize that name?
I don't think Valley's right.
Okay. Was the last name Swan?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, I might have. Who knows? Anyway, Coach Swan. And there is a Swan Valley, so who knows?
Yeah.
Now, in the loss to Great Falls High, the paper reported your touchdown this way. The only bright light for Helena came in the second period when Dean Retz, who had been running around the ends at will, took off like a deer from the Helena 37-yard line and raced 63 yards for the only Kitten score. In a 39-7 win over Bozeman, Dean ran for 3 long TDs of 25, 50, and 72 yards. And he, when you made the varsity, was it 2 years on varsity?
Yeah.
Junior and senior. As a running back and a defensive back when everybody played both ways. Any particular games or touchdowns or plays or anything like that stand out in your football career?
Well, we're talking such a long time ago, but I do remember one thing. It was in the paper, Glance at the Past, Friday, September 11th, 2020.
Okay, yeah. That's not too long ago.
Talking about the stuff here, and it talks when Helena High beat Havre 12-6.
Okay.
In the '59 season opener at Vigilante Stadium. The winning touchdown came in the final stanza on a double reverse from Noland to Dean Retz to Green from 21 yards out.
Okay.
And I remember that well because in those days you didn't do much of that, and you didn't. The halfbacks would hardly ever pass. So I remember that well. That was probably the standout.
So was that a pass, or was it a double reverse, or what was that? A pitch out?
It was a double reverse.
Double reverse.
It was kind of like a pass.
Yeah. Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Kind of like a lateral.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yep.
Then you won.
Yeah.
Okay, in track and field as a sprinter and 440 specialist for Helena, Dean was a member of 6 school record relay teams at the JC Relays. And at divisional and state. So combined between the relays, JC and divisionals and state, you were part of 6 school records in those events. And 3 of them were actually Vigilante Stadium marks in the 440 relay, 880 relay, and the medley relay. So the medley was 1,650 yards. I think this is correct. That's 110 yards short of a mile, consisting of legs of the 880, 440. You ran the 220, I believe, and a 110. Among your highlights was the Bingle victory over Livingston in a relay race, which involved a future Olympian by the name of Larry Questad. Can you tell us some memories on that?
Well, I save everything. And I remember an article, unfortunately, November 2nd, 2020, Larry Questad passed away. But
Yeah, a year or two ago.
the article said he's the fastest white man in the world. Well,
Why don't you hold that up and Jeannie can zoom in on it?
I'll let you, I'm not sure where that would be.
Where do you want me, Jeannie?
But anyway, I pride myself saying I would beat Larry Questad. Well, in those days, like I say, on the relay, what it amounted to is I had between 6 and 12 yard head start.
Oh,
And I held him off.
yeah,
And
yeah.
so I keep saying I beat Questad.
You did beat him.
I didn't want to say that I had a real good
You had a good lead. 'Cause well, I mean, he had the state records until, basically forever, because when they switched from the 100 yards
Yep.
and the 220 yards, well, he ran, they switched it to 100 meters and 220 meters, and they never took into consideration the conversion
Right.
there. So, and he'll come up later in our conversation, folks, Larry Questad. So, 1960, you were a senior, correct?
Mm-hmm.
You guys won the state championship.
Mm-hmm.
Lloyd Score was the coach. Now, you and teammate Tom Kenny placed first and third in the quarter mile. And the 880 relay finished runner-up. But tell us the story on that 440 race.
Well, what it amounts to was you had lanes being assigned, and Coach, Tom was faster, but I was stronger. So Coach Score said, "You get in this lane, you get in that lane." So the idea was for me, Tom to go out first, maybe get behind him and just run like heck and keep everybody out. Okay. It worked real good, except for one thing. A guy from Missoula got ahead of us, and we couldn't catch him. And he won it, and he was quite a runner. I, quite frankly, can't remember his name, but he was quite a runner.
It was a good plan, though.
Yeah, real good plan.
you were doing some blocking. Some of your football training came in there. Okay, another sponsorship break, folks, if you don't mind. One of our major sponsors is Brecky Excavating and Construction and owner Ray Brecky. His phone number is 406-439-5721 or 406-443-8782. And he's located at 5925 Lincoln Road. Also, Exit Realty and Bob Denherter. Bob is located at Western Premier Helena Great Northern Hotel, and his phone number is 406-449-8831. Exit Realty, locally owned and internationally strong. Okay, Dean, so back to your track after you graduated. I understand you received a scholarship to run for San Jose State in California. Tell me about that experience. That had to be quite...
Well, coming from Helena, Montana to San Jose, a little different. The second day I was there, the track coach got us all together, 22 of us, and said, okay, this is what you're going to start doing. And I said, in the fall? You know, I don't do anything till spring. And so, and then I looked around, and of the 22 of us, 18 of them were black, and the only black people I knew from Montana were super athletes. So right away...
So you knew the Harrells yeah.
Cur3t's, very good friends of mine.
Oh yeah, Cur3t's.
And so right
Gary.
away I was psyched out, and after about 3 weeks, I said, "To heck with it." And I don't regret that, but I wish I would have gone to either Missoula or some other place. So,
Yeah, but well, that was pretty prestigious though to get that kind of a
yeah.
scholarship. And
Yeah.
So did you stay there then at San Jose, or what happened after that?
I stayed there 1 year. Then after that, I came back, and I stayed out 1 year. Went to Oregon 1 year, and then graduated from the University of Montana.
Okay.
So,
And what did you study there? Did you get a degree or anything like that? Or?
finance and economics.
Ah, okay. Well, that makes sense.
Yep.
That explains a few things. But I did want to mention that San Jose, I don't know what it was like at that point, but I know later in the decade they became a mecca for sprinters.
Yep.
They had Tommy Smith and John Carlos, who took like first and second,
Yep.
or first and third, maybe first and second, in the 220 or 200 meters. And there was a guy in that race that took sixth, and it was the same guy that you held off in the JC relays.
Yep. Yep.
For Stanford, by the name of Larry Questad.
Yeah.
So that's pretty memorable.
Yep.
In fact, that's that picture in the paper. That's his Olympics at the,
Yeah.
was it Mexico City, 68? I
I'm
think so.
not sure.
Yeah, 68 was Mexico City. Okay, so you come back to Helena. You carry on the family tradition of working track meets. So when did you start being a volunteer in all the track meets at Vigilante Stadium, doing the timing and that sort of thing?
Well, when I moved back here, I'd go to all the track meets, and I watched my father time, my uncle time, and I thought, well, why don't I do that? So basically, excuse me if I keep my notes, but we were there for a long, long time, and I started, I think, in '73, and my father always wanted to take second or third place. He said, it's easy timing in first place. He said,
Yeah.
I want the pressure second or third.
So you pick your lanes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And most of the people there, quite frankly, were older people that were members of Lions Club or something like that. And we did that for a long time until they came up with the, what are you calling it now?
The electric time,
electric
the
time.
fat time, yeah.
And we did a couple years backup timing, and then I quit.
Yeah, so I think that came in about 2010 or 2012, something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So 30 or 40 years.
Yeah, it was fun.
Yeah. And then if we can backtrack to the all-purpose track, you were involved in having that built, correct? Replacing the old cinder track?
Yeah, I kept looking around and seeing the other schools doing that, and I thought it's time to get rid of the cinder track. At the time, I was on the school board and also a bank president. So I made all kinds of arrangements to, first off, I got a bid how much it would cost. The school board informally told me that they would vote on it. So we wanted to do it right away, so I went to a fellow banker, and he said, yeah. He said, I'll give you the loan, but all of you have to co-sign.
Okay.
All you have to guarantee it and co-sign.
Okay.
So I went to all the people.
Do you remember how much it was? How much was the loan?
I don't.
Okay. Must have been pretty significant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But when I explained to everybody, look, you got to guarantee it, and if it default, you guys have to pay it. Well, at the time, there was a gentleman on there who was one of the best athletes to ever come out of Helena, the late, great Clayton Linebarger.
Yeah.
Clayton, as some people were saying, I don't want to do that, I want to do that. Clayton got up and said, look, I have nothing. I'll be glad to sign it. It doesn't matter to me. They can. So anyway, with him, we all signed it, and right away the next year it was all paid off and had a track.
Cool, yeah.
Yeah.
So Clayton says nothing from nothing is
Yeah.
nothing.
Yeah.
That sounds like Clayton. Yeah. He's like you. He was involved in everything
Yeah.
for decades. Okay, so when did you start? So did you just keep running, but you just went to longer distances? You know, because they don't compete. They didn't have like the Big Sky State games where they have sprints. So you had to go to longer distances.
I became a specialist in the 5K.
Yeah.
But I did some races. Bozeman had a track meet, and then they still have the seniors Masters track meet.
Yeah. Yeah.
And a little story on that. I didn't want to do that unless I knew I could win. So I went and I got a thing. I'm not finding it here, but anyway, I got a thing about the Masters Senior Olympics, and it used to go to.
Oh, yeah.
And so I read this, and I said, I'm going to run the 100, the 400, and 200, but I'm going to win every one of them. So I made sure that my time was better than on here.
You did some calculations, some of
Yeah.
your monetary, fiscal stuff, huh?
So
And you had the stopwatch to help you out. So.
yeah, so we went there. I was quite frankly working out pretty good at the Vision Stadium.
Mhm.
So when it came, I had a little twinge in my right hamstring. So I went up to the meet director, who happened to be Shirley
Chesterfield?
Shirley Chesterfield, retired Capitol High track coach.
Yeah.
And I said, scratch me. She says, Dean, you're the only one in your age group. Go and run it. So I went back and said, okay, I'll do it. So instead of just going and, I had to be like I've been all my life. So I took off as fast as I could, fell flat in my face.
Huh.
Got up and walked over to my family and said, what's going on? What happened to me? And somebody said, keep on walking. So I walked.
Oh, wow.
Finished, went up to Shirley and I says, I'm done. You have to cancel me on the rest of them. She said, Dean, you finished. Here's your medal. So I got a medal.
There you go. Good for you. And it's in the record books.
And then the next year, used to be in Helena, I used to rotate 2 years, and now it's in Missoula full time. And next year, I did the 200, didn't do the 100, 400, 880, 800.
800. Yeah.
Unfortunately, there was one guy ahead of me. I took second in all three of those.
Oh, okay.
So, and I ended my career in second place.
Yeah. I want to backtrack. I always forget this for some reason. I want you to explain to our listeners, our audience. It says on the shoe, 1928 Interscholastic broad jump, 21 feet 8 inches, new state record, Ernest Retz. So hold those up so Jeannie can zoom in on them and tell the folks what those are.
My Uncle Howard gave these to me, and I've kept them along with my track shoes. And like I say, he won the state record that time.
Right.
And unfortunately, as I remember, the next year it was broken.
Oh, okay.
But he did win the state track meet, and like I say earlier, he won every event there. He
Scored all his team's points. And then, if you'll hold these up, now Tell the folks what those, who those belong to.
These are my track shoes
Okay.
that Coach Scorer gave me.
Oh, he gave those to you.
I was tri-captain of the team, so he
Oh.
gave me those.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And I also have the baton, and as you can see, these, you don't get these anymore.
No.
These were spikes.
Yeah, the spikes. Yeah.
But
Turn them around, flip them around so they can.
yeah, and
There.
but
Those
that's one reason why we want to do the cinder track, because.
Yeah.
But so I've cherished those. They're in my. I have an office in my garage that I have those displayed, along with some pictures of my father,
Yeah.
my Uncle Howard, and myself. And
Now tell the folks what you're holding there. What is that?
this is the relay baton.
Yeah. And
if you've ever gone to a relay, a lot of if you drop the baton, you're out of the race. And a lot of people, you go past a certain area, you're disqualified.
Uh-huh.
Last year at the Helena High, Capital High dual meet,
Uh-huh.
Helena High got beat by Capital. The last runner threw baton down,
Oh.
and Helena High was disqualified.
Oh, wow.
But their time was good enough that they got into the state meet. So that's a very important thing.
Yeah. Okay. It's just, I don't know. It looks like pressed cardboard is what it looks like.
Yeah.
Okay. Distance running, any marathons? What's the farthest race you ran?
I was going to do a marathon back in 1976 when they decided to have the Governor's Cup stay in Helena all the time because of the governor.
Right.
I was in charge of doing the course, and the course at that time started where I used to hunt at the Division I campground, come back.
But was it up by York?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go to York Bar, keep going to the end of the York Road, Division I campground.
Yeah.
We'd come down, and then after all done on the marathon, you would come into Capital High and run one lap, just like the old days.
Huh. Yeah.
So I decided, as long as I was in charge of that, I better run it. And you have a goal in mind. You want to do a 7-minute mile, 8-minute mile, and I got off, got off pace. So I said, heck, I'm not going to finish. So I didn't finish the race. Dumbest thing in the world, because it haunts me that I didn't finish. But I wanted to either finish in the good time or not at all.
Right. Well, you're a little competitive.
Yeah.
More than a little competitive.
Yeah.
Now, did you have anything to do? They changed the course from York to starting at Marysville. Were you involved in that at
No,
all, or
I wasn't,
nothing with that?
no.
Okay. And Mount Helena Run. We were talking about that earlier with Ben Burgess. You did a couple of those? Or?
Yeah, that was a fun run. In fact, I save everything, so that's why at last glance at the past, I ran 76 run. I ran quite a few of them. That was fun. More fun going up to me than going down, but I haven't done that for quite a few years.
Yeah, no, that's I don't blame you. That is a killer.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see. This is the part of the program, folks, where I do my impression of Howard Cosell, and we get up close and personal. So tell me about your marriage to your wife. What was your wife's name? When did you guys get married? Give me some background on that.
Well, I'm glad you asked, because we got married September 1st, 1963.
Huh.
So this past year was our 60th wedding anniversary.
60, yeah.
60 wedding anniversary. I was
Yeah.
quite young when I got married.
Yeah. So. And what was her maiden name? Sue?
Sue Craig, yeah.
Sue Craig, okay.
Yeah.
Any relation to Craig, Montana?
No.
Okay. How many kids did you guys have?
We have, the oldest one is Dean, is not Dean Jr., we call him Chip.
Okay.
And then there's Darren, the boy, and then Kim, my daughter.
Yeah, okay. And who's Kim married to?
Kim,
Yeah.
she married Rob Colwell.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
How many grandkids? Well, I know Nick, baseball player, trackster,
Yep.
and your daughter did some softball, or granddaughter, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I've got, well, there's Nick, and there's Clint, and then Danae,
Danae.
named after Dean, and she
Okay.
she was softball in high school.
Yeah, okay.
So, yeah,
All right, then, you retired now?
retired.
Yeah.
Yep.
And how many times a week do you go to the gym?
Well, I go at least 4 times a week. Try to go 5, but I'm dedicated for 4.
Okay. Lifting weights, cardio, all of that stuff?
Well, quite honestly, a lot of it is because I have an arthritis in my spine, and I can't run anymore. So I go there, and a lot of those exercises I do are from the physical therapist.
Oh, yeah, sure.
But I have to tell you a quick story about that.
Sure.
I went to the doctor, and he looked at that, and he said, I said, can I still run? He says, nope. I slammed the thing down and says, I want a second opinion.
He said, okay, you're ugly too.
Yeah. So I can't really run anymore.
Yeah.
The treadmill, I get on there as fast as I can, but the running just isn't there anymore.
Yeah. Well, you must have loved to run.
Oh, I loved it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, one thing I skipped over was your hunting. So tell me some of your hunting career highlights. Any good stories?
There is nobody alive that knows the Gates of the Mountains wilderness better than me.
Okay.
I shot my first deer up there in 1952.
Oh, wow. That was.
And this last year, with my son Darren, my grandson Nick, my daughter Kim, Gates of the Mountains, I shot a buck the day before Thanksgiving. But I used to go up to Bear Prairie, which is 7 miles, and basically run back. Just run back.
Yeah.
So,
Just
but
just to do it. Yeah.
I still hunt. In fact, you mentioned.
Anybody can walk back, but
Yeah.
not too many can run back.
Well, we mentioned water skiing. 2 years ago, I had a complete shoulder
Reconstruction.
relocate. I mean, it's all new.
Yeah.
So I told the doctor, I says, okay, at age 80, can I still water ski? He said, nope.
Huh.
I said, I'm going to anyway.
Yeah.
But I haven't. I haven't.
No second opinion.
No.
All right. Well, that's about a wrap. Anything else you want to add? Anything that we left out, Dean?
Well, one thing I would like to add
Sure.
about a coach. Years and years ago, they had the first annual Helena YMCA 5-mile race.
Okay.
I remember running down there because Coach Bill Gilbert came down with his team,
Yeah.
and we all ran, and I remember Coach Gilbert beating all of his team.
Wow.
He was that good a shape.
That would be memorable. Yeah.
And another one here, which is almost the same. I did an article. I changed the name of it. It's always been Glance to the Past. September of 2022, I did a glance at the best
Oh, jeez.
about a Cur3t's. And I'll be honest, I don't know anybody that knows more sports than this gentleman. And this ad, I can't believe how many people come up to me and they agreed with me.
Oh, wow. Well, that's really
That's
nice.
always been a highlight.
Yeah.
So,
Well, highlight for me too. I appreciate that.
Yeah,
Thank
yeah.
you.
yeah.
Yeah. Thanks, Dean.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, well, that's getting close to a wrap, folks. I'd like to give a shout out to my individual sponsors, Ken Nettleton, Pat Murphy, Tim Ferreter, Gary Turcotte, Bill Sprinkle, and Bill Bentley. And I also have a couple of anonymous sponsors that I'd like to thank. And then I also want to give a special mention of the late Rick Pfeiffer, who passed away recently. Mm-hmm. He and I were 1970 HHS classmates. Rick was a long-time advocate of almost anything in Helena, but he was an advocate of my work, and he was and still is a sponsor of the show. So R.I.P. Rick. And if you would like to be a sponsor for Curt's Corner, send me a text at 406-594-2878. And just remember, it's Hey Curt. And it just coincidentally, I stole that from my guest. Years ago, he told me that his phone number was Hey Dean. So it was a good idea. But I did not change my email. It's you can contact me that way. It's CURT52SYNNESS@gmail.com. So long for now, folks. Until next time, Shaka da kind ting, my brother. And Jeannie, if you don't mind, a little traveling music, please.